Stephen Mansfield, New York Times bestselling author and speaker.
Doug Tenaple, I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim.
Tweet Groups.
I'm Victor Dweck.
Joseph Carter, I'm the Mink Man.
This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire.
This is Leah Morgan. I'm a comedian, and this is why you should never
Not ever.
Don't waste your time.
Oh, you really should.
listen to those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. I'm Lucas Pinkert. I'm the Reverend. With me is Danley Gibson, the Reprobate, and we're laughing about some stuff that's just going to get cut out of the show.
Why?
Tonight, we've got on our airwaves the author of You Can't Write City Hall, Amazon bestseller, Dry Bar Comic. He's got an Amazon comic special as well. And he's got a new tour coming up.
And soccer coach.
Yeah, and soccer coach. So
he's literally doing it all.
He is. It is Jeremy Nunes, who this is his second time on the show. He's got his webcam up this time. We talk about the new book. We talk about the new comedy tour that's coming out, some of the new material. We briefly touch on his podcast, Dynamite Drop-In, as well as talking quite a bit about the balance between being a comedian, being a mayor, and still trying to be a leader, loving your town, all in the midst of it. It's all covered in this episode of The Reverend and the Reprobate with Jeremy Nunes. Make sure you like, subscribe.
Yeah. Like this, because you can always go back and you can unlike it.
And unsubscribe.
We're going to hit this button right here. Ding, bing. We never do that.
Make sure that you get notifications.
Just like it. It helps you out. It helps you out. Helps us out.
Quit trying to be Dusty Slade. He's not. We don't.
As soon as I say just
Jeremy
like
Nunes. Well, Danley, on our airwaves today is it's the second time that this guy has requested to come on our show.
I know, he kept asking.
A man that all three of our dads find summarily unfunny. It is the author of You Can't Write City Hall, an Amazon bestseller, Amazon and Dry Bar comedian. It is the fabulous, the talented, the boy wonder himself. It is Jeremy Nunes. What's going on, Jeremy?
What's up, fellas? Happy to be back, man.
It's good to have you back. It's good to see your face.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, so the first time we recorded, I was not aware that you were recording by video.
We weren't. We actually weren't either. We were experimenting.
Also, that's my fault.
One of us does the editing and like the engineering of this, and one of us does the admin.
One of us didn't let several ladies know who came on that it was going to be video also. And they were like, I really wish I would have known, because I would have gone tanning and done my makeup and hair. And I went, oh, man, I am an idiot.
Yep.
It was me.
Yep.
I'm happy to admit it was me.
But it's better now. We're happy to have you in as much in person as we can have you. And looking at your background, you got stuff about the comedy special. You got the book.
They're showing up.
You got Dynamite Drop-In, like all of that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so this is all learning experience. I was going to say, when we talked originally, it was either pre-pandemic or maybe
it was
just the beginning.
Yeah. It was the beginning of it.
Yep.
Okay, so nobody had quite yet, well, a lot of folks that weren't really used to doing Zoom and that sort of thing, like me, hadn't really tinkered around with it. I think I may have had I could have met you guys through my camera or whatever, but instead I just went straight audio because I was like, well, nobody's going to see me anyways. But now, I mean, I've done probably 500 Zoom interviews, and I was like, well, I'm just going to throw my promotional stuff up there. I mean, I'm selling out to everybody.
Yeah. So what's the highest that you've reached? I know for a while you were top 5, but the book is charting in 3 different categories. So talk to us a little bit about like how that part of it works, because this is fascinating to me.
I don't.
Well, that's
care.
news to me. I only knew of 2 categories.
Yeah,
what categories?
So you've got the overall, religious humor, and then political humor. So those are probably the 2 categories: is religious and political humor. Which you're still, you're 798 in political humor, 370 in religious, and 904,270 in books. But I think that one, that's a cheater one, right?
Look, we all know that Mondays suck.
Yeah. Well, I've looked at this, and there's all these weird things that are charting in the top 100, like the Harry Potter series is charting in the top 100, and then each one of the Harry Potter books is also charting in the top 100. So J.K. Rowling is taking up 8 spaces, which I think is unfair.
You should write another book so you can sell it as a package and individually.
Yeah.
What's your next book going to be about?
A lot of people ask me what the next book is about.
If I
wanted to make some extra cash, I should do a sequel to this book, sort of a what happened after the fact, because a lot of people want to know. So what happened after I wrote that book? Or I could just run for school board and do this whole thing over again.
Oh, yeah, that seems pretty interesting.
Well, would you tell us what the book is about? Because we did cover this, but it's been a while.
But also, I know what the book is about because I read it, and Danley.
I know what it is.
Danley doesn't.
I'm trying to clue our audience in.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm trying to help.
For the one of us that didn't do research, talk to us about what the book is about.
That is.
So, for those that don't know, I ran for mayor in my hometown, won on a joke, and so I basically, during the pandemic, took the time to write a book sort of retelling all the hilarious things that happened while I was the mayor of my hometown, this tiny little town. And so that's the gist of it. It's hit the Amazon bestseller list, I think 14, I want to say, weeks in a row. It's hit the bestseller charts. So, but it's barely hanging on. I mean, it's on life support for the bestsellers right now. So,
but we got to do something. Yeah, at 14 weeks, you've been a bestseller for 3 months in a row. You're going on your 4th month. That's an impressive run, especially when you're not using a big publisher. You know, when you weren't published by Penguin to get this thing out there, and yet a lot of the legwork and the publicity you've done on your own, you've done a phenomenal job. And the book, if you read the first couple of chapters, man, the thing sells itself. It's absolutely hysterical.
Well, thanks. You know, I reached out to a lot of people I know that could have me on their podcast or whatever. And, you know, you guys have been great. It took over a year, but I'm back and I am grateful.
So I've got here, this is my my autographed copy.
Yep.
Right here that I got.
Oh, cool.
You misspelled your name in it, which I always thought was a really interesting thing because it's Nunez in the book, and I didn't know if that was a misprint on the cover.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, so this was a gift.
Says it. Really? Tell me more.
Yeah, so it says there's a note here that says, "To my dearest Pookie, what a wild ride this has been, Jeremy Nunes with a Z."
Okay. I might have forged your signature.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's funny. My wife does that all the time.
Yeah. At least it wasn't on a checkbook. It was just your book.
Yeah. Well, that's.
But we would love some. What are those called? The page plates.
Yeah.
Book plates.
Yeah. You just want a plate.
We can cover that up.
Just hello, my name is, and then just sign Jeremy Nunes, and we'll just slap that sticker in there. You can send that to us. Okay, so I do want to talk to you.
We do want to actually talk.
Yeah,
about
we do want to talk to you about the book because I've found it fascinating, and I love the way that it's broken up. Because normally when I'm reading while I'm doing cardio, or, you know, just because I've got so many people in and out of my office as a pastor, I don't have times often where I can sit down and read, you know, a 20 or 30 page chapter.
Reading during cardio. Calm down.
You're welcome. I can also chew gum while I do all of that.
No.
So, but I like the book because it's like bite sized. You've got some stories that are half a page, some that are I haven't found any stories that really go over like 4 pages. So it's enough to where I feel like I can pick it up, put it down throughout the workday. The stories are hilarious. The characters are great and really well written. And so I've got some questions about some of these characters. So you've said a couple of times that you were the mayor of a small town. You were the mayor of a village. Because there is, and you mentioned corrected. That you say that a few times in there, is that it was a village. And so I had to go look it up because we are in Lake Dallas. We're a city, but we're across the street from a town. And I was like, okay, so we have, you know, citizens. They have members of the township. You were actually in charge of a bunch of villagers, which is something that that's not a term.
There's a bunch of video games on that.
Yeah. So
it was the village people.
It was.
Yeah.
So I love the characters in the book. The way that you wrote it, I think is hysterical. There are a couple in particular that I want to know about.
Like in Pokemon, there's like 6 houses.
Yeah, in the village, and there are 4 rundown. I'm just gonna start giving away everything that's in there. Talk to us a little bit about a one Rhonda Brown, because she comes up as a character that you're having to do a lot of interaction with. She's one of the few full-time employees at the city. Well, no, or she was a part-time employee that her pay was going to double because she was maybe had an inappropriate friendship with Mr. Donaldson. So
this is the mayor.
Yeah, the previous mayor who left all of the records upstairs and caused a fire hazard and the roof to leak. And anyway, all of it's in the book. But talk to us about Rhonda Brown.
Okay, so first of all, Danley said you were impressed about cardio and reading. I was just impressed at cardio, first of all.
Yeah, cardio sucks.
Yeah,
I haven't seen you in a year. Look at these arms. I mean, this guy's on the creatine or something. I haven't seen him in a while.
Well, it's that first year of marriage, and my wife she's almost 13 years younger than I am. So when she goes from the couch to the kitchen and back, she can make that run in just a couple of seconds. And so if I have to chase her, or if she's got to get up to do something quick, I was having to take the emergency inhaler. So I was like, I got to do the cardio. That's what it basically amounted to. That my albuterol prescription was running out way too fast.
And the creatine for the rest of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. For the water weight. Yeah.
Okay, so to answer your question, you mentioned Rhonda Brown. So I need to clarify for a second here. So Rhonda Brown would not be the person you refer. Rhonda was the village clerk. So
she's the village clerk, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the treasurer that had sort of the inappropriate relations. Honestly, I can't remember what I named her in the book.
Oh,
but what's her real name?
Would you like to dox her real quick?
I can confirm I've been unfriended on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Even with a fake name? Well, I guess there's enough context for the village, right?
Yeah.
So while you're pulling that up, just point of clarification, I'm not impressed with his cardio. It's annoying to me. Because he keeps talking about abs by Christmas, and I got him convinced to agree to abs by Christmas 2024.
Tina Elton.
But I don't think I'm going to make that deadline.
Yeah, Tina Elton is the name that we have given our young 20-something treasurer.
20-something treasurer.
And mayor, yep. Young 20-something treasurer.
Tina Belcher.
Tina Elton. I've got some spots in this book marked because I've got some very specific questions. Okay, so Rhonda Brown. Rhonda is a big player, somebody that it looks like you came to trust over the course of your time as mayor with some tasks and with some things. She was somebody that at first, as you were coming into the role, you weren't really sure who you could and couldn't trust. And Rhonda seems to be somebody that as you're going through the book, you're trusting her with more and more tasks and things, and she's actually performing getting the city away, or the village away from paper records, and helping to make the records electronic and all these kind of things to help modernize the village.
Strong words for old people, by the way.
Yeah, modernize is dangerous.
Digital.
Okay, so Rhonda, interestingly enough, I don't know if I would say I started trusting her with stuff so much as by default the only person available.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Sometimes those things are cooperative.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the church nursery when you only got one person to volunteer to run that thing. You're like, I don't know if I trust you, but you're the only one. So we'll see what happens.
The diapers are over there. Yeah. Call me if there's a fire.
Yeah, don't drop a baby.
Yeah.
Yep. Please don't shake or drop the babies.
Yeah. You're gonna want to.
Yeah.
She actually reached out to me later, and I got a little message from her. Said, "Hey, just so you know, I just had to buy the book. I read it all in a day," and I thought, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, probably wasn't because she loved it, right? It was probably how angry she was. Which one was it?
And she even, my fear all along, I will say, as I wrote this and had to work with the publisher, so we were very fearful of some potential, some libel type lawsuits or whatnot. So I had to make sure the disclaimer was worded appropriate and everything else. And so she reaches out, and I was like, well, here comes the first lawsuit. And she said, hey, I have to say, I thought it was fantastic. Even the parts when you made fun of me, I thought it was great. I was like, wow, I cannot believe it. It's like the devil is getting a little chilly right now. Is all I could think of. But
that's homegirl can take a joke. That's good.
But that's also that's a great. I mean, it's got to be a confidence booster when you know that you've written something that it's got enough bite into it, but also that the people it was written about enjoyed it. So I do have a question about the way that you wrote the book, because it is in a very succinct chronological order. Did you just go through the minutes of the meetings that you had for each one of these? Because they're like, when you go through
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, they're dated. So for the 4th of July, or the Independence celebration on the 3rd of July in 2014, this is where the fireworks were. This is this lady who came to my door at 10 o'clock at night banging on the door to tell me that the fireworks were too loud and we needed to turn them down. Like, do you have this stuff like journaled somewhere?
August 2nd, Barry let out a big fart.
Yeah, no. Barry makes a fart noise.
Oh, okay.
And I am curious, like, what is that noise that Barry makes that you refer to in parentheses as fart noise?
Okay, so this
because this is one of my favorite parts.
So I got to answer both questions. So number one,
there's a lot
yes, like, how do I remember everything that happened? I can't recall. And sure enough, I knew that as the next regime took over, they would lose records. They'd stop keeping track of stuff. I just knew that was going to happen. So I held on to all my paperwork. So yes, I read the meeting minutes.
That is
and that's
awesome.
where it all came from.
Yeah, it's great.
A nice insight, by the way, picking up on that.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, this guy's smart.
He is. And annoying.
So
intelligent and annoying. I got all the A's covered. All right.
Yep. There's one more.
So the I already forgot what the other question was.
Yeah,
What
me
was
too.
Okay, so you got the meeting
Have
minutes.
you ever tried a bidet?
Oh, no. It's about Barry. The other question's about Barry. So Barry has some catchphrases. He says "giddy up" a lot. There's some yeehaws. There's some ums. But there is one onomatopoeia that is just in parentheses in some of these quotes, and it'll be like right in the middle of a quote. It'll be like Barry says, "Well, I think that's a." Open parentheses, fart noise, close parentheses, good idea. What is fart noise?
If you can't do it, can we make noises and you tell us if we get close?
We're going to let him try first.
Okay.
Okay. So he would regularly say something like, well, guys, I don't know if this is going to work out. We've got to review the budget. Giddy up.
Does Barry have Tourette's? That is definitely a tick.
So it is.
He said all those all together in a row.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, giddy up. Here we go.
I forgot.
Get her done. That's a tick.
Sir.
That's Tourette's.
You know who it
Yes,
reminds me
sir.
of? It reminds me of Kyle, because Kyle would always, whenever we had him on in the infancy of the show, he'd go like and all kinds of stuff into the mic. Yeah. So okay. So that's the fart noise that Barry uses. He's.
I still didn't catch that. You threw me with all of the other. Can you do it one more time?
Yeah. Give us one more sampling
with no giddy up. Just the fart noise.
No giddy up. Well, and then it's not in context.
Yeah, you're
man.
right. You're right. We'll move on. I'll review the tape, and then we're good. Moving on.
Right.
Okay. So
have you tried a bidet?
I don't
What's
know
the
why you're
bidet
on
have
this
to do with
question.
it?
Yeah. What does it have to do with anything?
I think it's a
You just think
cleaner
it's
way to go. You can keep asking your questions about the book.
So there. So I think Barry's a really interesting character that's in there. There's also a character that's introduced early in the book, and then we have a bit of a callback to her, and that is
that Lee?
No, it's Mrs. Yount. And Mrs. Yount.
I want to know all about Mrs. Yount.
So Mrs. Yount is a very colorful character in the book, and I want to set her up just a skosh so that our listeners know a little bit about her, but I really want you to add all of the flavor to who she is. So where she comes in the book, she's finished last in 2 consecutive township elections or trustee elections, right? Because the village mayor and then there's the trustees, which are the mayor and the council people. So she's finished last in the 2 previous trustee elections, and then Jeremy as mayor has to make this decision. He's got a trustee named Mike who stops coming to meetings, won't respond to him, and they essentially have to impeach him, save for this sweet little lady who goes and has him resign. He talks to a dozen people. They won't come in. And so he comes to the last name on the list that he wants to have, and it's Mrs. Yount, who has lost the 2 previous elections, the very bottom of the barrel vote getter. And so he approaches her. So talk to us about Mrs. Yount, about this character that she is.
This is the nuclear option, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Does
how
that set it up well?
like how this changes the whole dynamic of the council or the board at this point.
Okay, so I first want to point out how she comes into the story. We talk. So when I was running, the aforementioned Barry had mentioned to me, you got to kind of break the town up into voter blocks. You got the bar vote, you got the old people vote, you got the church vote, right? So you got to kind of get your in will. So my wife and I, we go out on a date night and then just pop into the bar, have one drink, have our faces be known, shake a couple hands, and be on our way. And so once we're in there and there's this just floods of people exiting the bar to the outside, which generally means a fight is going on. So I was quite interested, to be honest. I was like, hey,
for sure.
We're good. We got live UFC right here in the parking lot, man. So
and you're a wrestling fan, so why not? Let's see it. Let's let it happen.
Hop in there, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, give a few critiques. Should have used the chair.
And so run out there, and I see kind of a crowd off in the distance, and I asked him, well, what's going on? And he said, oh, Sandy Yount is out there, lifting up the shirt, showing people the goods.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, oh. Because as I described in the book, Sandy Yount is like, I could name 8,000 people I'd rather see. You know what I mean? It's not something you'd want to encounter.
This was not a supermodel putting on a show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now here's your next alderman right here. That's who we got. So, yeah, everyone says no. I'm asking old high school buddies, and I'm asking neighbors and parents of old high school buddies and everyone else who had run. We had so many vacancies. The people that previously ran, I put them in there, and, I just had nobody. So kind of sit her down, and she says, yeah. And, it pays $75 a month, which would be great income. We need the $75 a month. My husband quit his job after he won $100 on a lotto scratch-off ticket.
That has to be fake. He quit his job after he won $100 on a lottery scratch-off ticket.
How far does a dollar go in, this is Illinois, right? Or is it Indiana?
Right.
It's Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, both those states are pretty similar.
So, yeah,
what are the differences between Illinois and Indiana?
When it comes to the dollar and of value or the value of a dollar in Dawson, apparently
I've moved
a lot.
I've moved on about that. Just in general, like, does Illinois and Indiana have the same rivalry that Oklahoma and Texas has? Like
Illinois,
really don't like
as far as
Oklahoma.
sports, doesn't really have a rival because they are not usually good at anything.
Yep. Okay, so it sounds like it's the same thing.
Yeah, except for they had Michael Jordan. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Back on track. Mrs. Yount in the parking lot.
So
you think there's a fight, and it turns out
it's not. And now her husband's quit her job.
There are some knockouts.
Her husband has quit his job because he won $100 on a scratch-off ticket.
Yep.
And so
She
this
really needs
$75
the alderman job, which I know.
Yeah.
I knew from the last episode already. You guys didn't teach me what alderman was, because if you review the tape,
Sure.
I know what it means.
Definitely.
It means councilman or councilwoman in this case,
Or
of a town.
Or Council Yount. And this particular Council Yount is getting $75 a month, which is life-changing.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, sure. It's
Okay,
big money for them.
Yeah.
No, her husband, I can't think, Mr. Yount. I don't
Let's just call him
recall
Harry.
his name.
Harry is what his name in the book.
Harry Yount.
Yes.
The aptly named Harry, literally very, And so
sounds like he's got a carpet that he's trying to hide under a sleeveless T-shirt in one of the episodes of the book that he yells at Jeremy about.
Yeah. So what happens is I had to get after Sandy. She regularly let her dog out, run around, go to the bathroom, and so I basically sent her a message that, hey, just so you know, people in this town have concealed carry. If the dog approaches them, they could shoot the dog. So, it's, in your best interest just to follow the rules anyway. But above that, we're in a hillbilly town, something could happen. Mm-hmm. Well, here we go. Next morning, you get the red beat up pickup truck that I heard coming, 8 blocks away. Thought it was 5 shotgun shots, but no, it was a truck. So here he comes. I'm out mowing the grass. I pretend I don't see him, but because I know why he's there. So he kind of approaches and he's like, "Why are you making my wife cry?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "You said you're going to shoot the dog or whatever." And then I didn't say I was going to shoot the dog. I'm saying something could happen. So, and he might have, I got an Italian family. So it was one of those things where he was like, well, you're implying, it'd be a shame if something happened to the dog.
Did he do like the gestures?
Yeah. I was like, hey, where you going?
I know what this means, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I was just trying to help your friggin' dog out.
So he's wearing, of course, his tank top with the hair protruded everywhere, very Austin Powers-ish, but legit, thick. And so I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not wearing my wedding ring. I am married, going to put it out there so I can't get in trouble later.
Sorry, ladies.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I got to just be careful. Sandy Yount may have interest or something, but.
You were a man of some power at one point in the Dawson community.
So he's like, you said you're going to shoot it. Like, no, and he's like, can you guys wimps walk around with your guns? That's all the gun I need right there.
Oh my gosh.
So he's seen Joe Dirt too many times.
Might have parented him, it sounds like.
Yeah.
The Younts are an incredible character throughout this book. And the council meetings, as Jeremy said, he's going through the minutes of the council meetings, and you can see how he is masterfully setting some things up. And I do have to say, reading the book, I got to give you a lot of credit for the foresight that you had in putting forth some of these actions. Because I live in a small community. I think there's about 8,000 of us in our little community. We have 2 city council meetings a month, and there are times when somebody will just drop a little nugget of information and be like, "Oh, you know what? Just so everybody knows, it's been raining a lot this week, and there's a water that's kind of getting on one of the roadways." Well, then 2-3 months down the road, now there's this whole public works project to fix this whole road, and these little bits of information have kind of been sprinkled over the course of a few months to now it's brought to everybody's attention. Well, this seems like something that you, from day one, were trying to do. You were efforting to do this in order to get some of the things done that hadn't been done in the previous 20 years, one of which being the strays. Another was
the water
and some of the stuff that happened with your 2 preparing for retirement employees with Ron, who you had to get an understudy for, the guy that was running the water department. But I'm really curious about this guy who turns out to be probably my favorite character in the book, because I think I've had at every job I've had one of these guys working for me. Talk to us about Merf. Because Merf might be my favorite character in the book because he's such a jerk. He's such an old crank. I love it.
Everybody wants to know about Merf.
Yeah, because he's awesome.
So don't people understand, Merf is the guy that, at any workplace, just been working there forever and forever, to the point he doesn't care about anything anymore. And we would push him to get one thing done, and 3 weeks would go by and it would never get done. And be like, hey, what's the story? Why when did you get that done? He's like, well, this and this all needed done, so I never had time. Oh, okay. And then this would go on for like months. And then eventually get to the point the guy retires and is mad that he didn't throw a town parade for him.
It's awesome.
It would be a parade, but you're not invited.
Yeah, there's a story about him talking about the cleaning lady, and Peanuts. Tell us that story.
Okay, I'll see if I remember this.
Peanuts.
Okay.
Peanuts. Yeah.
Yeah, we said peanuts.
Extra emphasis on the end of that.
Hopefully the captions pick that up right because they're auto-generated.
The old lady. No.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
He I want to say he calls me and says, hey, when does the cleaning lady come back in? Opal. And I said, well, I think she was just in there. It'd be probably another month or something. And he's like, well, there's all these peanut shells left all over in the break room, and they need picked up. And I was like, well, it seems odd that she would have just left in there. And he's, do you know how they got there? And he's like, well, they're my peanut shells, but I'm not picking them up. Not my job.
No.
This is the common thread for Merf, is that he does not any like tiny inconvenience.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is him talking about how he only has a half hour in his day that's like his flexible thing, and Jeremy asked him to fill it with this 15-minute task, and he's like, I got 30 minutes left in my day. You're gonna try to take 15 minutes of it with this new thing. Okay, the boy wonder wants something done like that. That's amazing. So, what do you do from a leadership standpoint? How did you, in the book you handle it very comedically, but how did you handle that from day to day? Because this was, being mayor of the village is a full-time job in the small village that you guys had. You're trying to get a comprehensive plan done. You're trying to get the budget done. It sounds like, much like in our city, as I throw some shade, that your city attorney has as much interest of being at the meetings as he does in living in the town, which is less than zero. So, like, how as a leader do you try to work all of those things, and still in the back of your mind you've got political aspirations, potentially another term, but also you have some campaign promises that you made that you've got to get pushed through. How does all of that work together with you traveling all the time? How did you just make that stuff work?
Well, that's a great question. A lot of times I don't know. I will tell you, I had a full head of hair when I was sworn in, and then it just went. It was so, as far as, Merf, I didn't quite figure out he was who he actually was until later on. So a lot of people had warned me about him, say, oh, this guy's kind of sneaky. He's a little two-faced, because most people in the town, even to this day, say, oh, nicest guy in the town, would do anything for anybody. And then as soon as, the public is out of the picture and it's just a one-on-one conversation,
peanuts,
totally
everywhere.
different person.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends say he's the Absalom of the town.
Ooh,
for a little
okay.
biblical reference.
Son of Solomon.
David, I think.
Son of David.
David. Son
I was
of David.
close.
Yeah.
Brother of Solomon.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because he fights Solomon, or he dies in battle, right? Fighting Solomon, trying to get the kingship.
So he's kind of the Absalom of the village.
Is that accurate, or am I way off?
You're ish.
I know more about
Ish.
Elijah, okay?
It's good. He's way funnier.
Yeah.
Elijah tells
yes.
better jokes. Yeah.
So this is a guy who's kind of standing around saying, the current mayor's doing this and that, and I'd be a much better mayor. I just want to put that out there. A lot of that, and like all that stuff going on. So I'm juggling this guy, and get that book nice front and center. There you go. So
I love it. Now we're going to have to cut to the camera of the book falling down, because if Jeremy would have just kept talking, all of that's gone in post. Not anymore. You're right. We got it.
I break everything in the
We got
studio.
it.
That's why both of us are laughing.
Okay, so he's constantly like whispering behind your back.
So you got that going on. Then I got Ron Butcher, who's running the water plant. But as I discussed, both of these guys are near retirement. Both need people to learn what they do, and Ron takes on some pretty significant health concerns. So we're worried about that. So juggling all that plus the planning, trying to keep the town board happy, because if the town board doesn't like what you want, then they won't vote for it. You can't get anything done. So it was a lot of stress. I might have had a stroke. I'm not sure.
I'm glad you survived. Just to be perfectly honest, because that's a ton of stuff, and it seems like for the first time, and I don't want to sound like I'm just fanboying out over Jeremy, but having had to go through
I'll
some
balance
of this stuff,
you out.
Okay, thank you. But having as a community leader, having had to go through some of these things, like our city didn't have a comprehensive plan for 45 years prior to about 3 years ago. And going through all of those processes, you don't realize how important they are for maintaining things like roadways and water and all of this kind of stuff in order to get the grants and things that you need to keep the city moving from day to day. So it's incredibly
it's all boring.
It is really boring, but I have to say that as a comedian and a funny guy and a guy that's very affable about the way that you just approach life, I'm very impressed with how seriously you took this running as a joke, how seriously you took this position, and how you really did pour a lot into your community. And I think that's one of the things that really shines through in the book. That it's certainly funny. It's very well written. It's, I don't know how many people that I've read excerpts to or taken a picture of something from the book and be like, you've got to buy this book. This is awesome.
Yeah, he sent me one today about Yount.
Yeah, which and they're great, but
I have bought the book.
Yeah, you have, which we found out you forged Jeremy's signature on so that you give it to me as a gift.
And this was a multi-step. This was a multi-benefit to me. I also got to leave Jeremy a review on Amazon.
You did, as a verified purchaser, which was pretty awesome.
Yes,
that's all we'll say.
But
we'll probably put it up.
Your love of your community, even in the midst of all of this stuff, really comes through, and I think that's probably what makes the book great. Is that you don't have a cynical view of what it was like to work for the town or work for the village. You talk about how much you loved this place, and yet you had all of these difficulties, but your love of your community really, really shines through. So I think that's probably, for me, the coolest part, and probably why people like Rhonda Brown, whoever she may be in real life, because I can't friend her on Facebook. She doesn't exist. Why people like that will read it and even, look at the stuff where maybe you make some jokes at their expense and think, you know what, but he really cared about our community. You really set things forward. How did you, as an author, balance those two sides out? With, obviously, when you're in it, you have a cynical view of everything that's going on. There's a lot of frustration and things that happen there, but that you have a genuine love for the community that comes out in your book. As an author, how did you make that work?
Well, I, reading the meeting minutes, it reminded me a lot of stuff I had completely forgotten about. I was like, oh, I totally forgot we were doing that. I wanted to make it a point that I did take it serious. Like you mentioned there, there was a lot to it. It was such a serious point. I think I might have pulled it from the book, but I was in consideration to be the congressman, Republican nominee for Congress in our area.
Wow.
And so
now, is this at the state level or at the national level?
United States Congress.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you recall, I don't know if you may know this story or not, but in ballpark 2015, maybe, our congressman was Aaron Schock, had a bit of controversy that he had, misspent some campaign funds and this, that, the other, and eventually had to resign. And so then the
questions about mileage is what comes up on Politico when you Google Aaron Schock.
There you go. Yep. And so they had to. The Republicans of the area had to figure out who they wanted to kind of push in and get in there. And so
and you were like, I'll run as a joke.
Well, so they
worked out well last time.
They kind of vet you, and they ask you all kinds of questions about this, that, and the other, and make sure nothing pops up from your past and whatnot. But eventually they settled on Darren LaHood, who I ended up developing a great relationship with, and is actually one of the people that endorsed the book there. So I want to say I pulled that chunk because I didn't want anything to look bad for him, that he almost lost his seat to a comedian.
What gave LaHook the bump? Did I get that wrong?
LaHood.
LaHood. Okay. What gave LaHood the lead over you? Because you said they look into your past. What did they discover? Was it the?
Well, here's what I think. His father previously held the seat prior to Aaron Schock. So that's one big part of it. The other, Aaron Schock's young. He was probably like 28 years old. So they were looking for somebody young and had some momentum behind him. Darren was probably in his early 40s, I would guess, at the time. But so he had the name recognition. He was already a state congressman, and then I offered him $50 and they laughed at me. Said, you got to pay more than that.
Everybody loves a legacy.
Yeah.
So
how do you keep, so there are so many different characters in here with all fake names to protect you from libel. Have you ever said the real name and gone, oh shoot?
I was really, really concerned that I would it would switch somewhere in there. And suddenly, Sandy became, so I did a word search for every real life first name and last name to make sure nothing popped up in the book. And one of the really hard ones is that,
what was the real
Sandy,
name and then the fake name?
Yeah.
Something happened. My proofreader kept mentioning that every time I referred to my wife, I kept saying, my wife, da-da-da-da-da-da. She's like, you need to have a first name in there more regularly, not just my wife. Well, my wife's name is Sandra, and then we've got Sandy. And I was like, oh, there could be a huge mix up there. And I certainly don't want people to think I'm married in any way to Sandy Yount.
Correct.
Right? So
Sandy was at the local drugstore running around with her shirt up.
But I will tell you,
not my wife.
I will tell you that this exact thing that you're concerned about happened in our pre-show meeting. Because Danley,
we talked about it.
Danley was talking to me about the picture of the book that I sent him, which was the anecdote about Sandy Yount causing the commotion outside.
We're a really good team. He does the reading and sends me pictures of the page.
So I sent him the snapshot of that page, and then he's laughing. He's like, I really want to talk to him about Sandra and all Sandra's antics. And I was like, his wife? And he was like,
yeah.
No. Who was it you said? So that I understand why that's a legitimate thing, because I had to go back and look, and I was like, no, his wife's name is Sandra. I wanted to go back and double check that. So you weren't the only one that has come across that was actually a part of our pre-show meeting, was making sure that we got the names right for Sandy.
Make sure
and
you don't accuse his wife of any improprieties.
Yeah, she seems like a gem.
I can do that.
And kept him level-headed throughout the course of his tenure as mayor.
Yeah. So I was like, I could go through and switch all these out. Then I was like, you know what? I'm done now. I quit. I wasn't doing it anymore. Another unique thing that they found, this is pretty interesting. I'm talking about the night I'm sworn in, and I mentioned my wife is there, and my sister and my mom are there.
And your dad didn't show up.
And the proofreader catches, you don't mention your dad. We need to clarify why your dad isn't there. Does he not live in the area? Has he passed away? We should clarify. And I was like, oh, my dad wasn't there because he voted for the incumbent.
I get why you gave him a ticket.
Yeah, I think the three of our dads would get along so well.
Yeah.
Because I think that they all are summarily dismissive of our careers and the things that we do. And they're like, I want to be supportive, but you're just not very good at this. And so I'm going to go with the guy that's holding the seat. Because it was last time that you told us, and we joked about this in introducing you, that you said when you were doing professional wrestling that you were really good at it. It looked like you were going to have a long pro wrestling career. You had an injury. You decided to do comedy, and your dad's comment was, why, you're not very funny. It's like, and so that seems like it's kind of thematic. Is that for you in any way? Is that a motivator? They're like, oh, my dad doesn't think I can do this, therefore I'm probably going to be really good at it, and that the book will do good because he didn't think I could write. The comedy will do good because Dad didn't think I could do it. I made a great mayor because Dad didn't think I could do it. What's the next thing that your dad doesn't think you can do that you're going to be insanely successful.
And follow-up question, are you going to do that with your kid?
I won't do it with my kid. The next thing he says I can't do successfully is probably be a father.
Ooh.
I'm just kidding. Now, what motivates me, I want to try to make enough money in the comedy world that I make enough money and buy my mom a really nice car. And then my dad will be like, "You going to get me one?" I'm like, no.
I think that's a fitting revenge.
Yeah, absolutely. No, mom believed in me,
Yeah,
Dad.
Mom showed up to the meeting.
Remember when you didn't show up to the inauguration?
Mom voted for me.
When I read that line, that was one of those. There's a few things in the book that you read them, and you're like, this can't be real. Mm-hmm. It absolutely can't be real. And to find out the truth behind all of that is absolutely hysterical. So the book's done. It's become a bestseller on Amazon now. You got 14 weeks in a row. It's super easy to find. You can't write City Hall. I would encourage all of our listeners and those who are watching to go check it out. It's chock full of great stories. What are you doing now that the book's released? You're doing interviews for it. Are you prepping to go back on the road now that venues are back open? What's your stand-up schedule looking like now?
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna release the logo. I've got a little theater tour set up.
Oh, cool.
I'm releasing the logo for my theater tour tomorrow, Tuesday, after we record this. So I've got 7 small theaters that have lined up shows. Those have all sold out. And I've got numerous churches that have lined up and numerous corporate events, things like that. My concern now is the latest COVID situation. I've already started having events drop back out again.
No.
So yeah, so I'm really concerned something may happen there. But the comedy tour, it's I don't know how to describe the logo without just showing you. But
just show. This would be the big reveal.
Yeah, or you can just send it to us and we'll put it up because this is going to air in a couple of weeks. Yeah, and we'll just put the logo up whenever you talk.
We'll
about
pretend
it.
now. Oh wow,
man, that is awesome.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's the No Wokes comedy tour.
Nice.
I love it.
Who are you bringing with you?
Well, I've got different guys in different areas that kind of come along with me. So it's all kind of throughout the Midwest. And I've got kind of different guys in different states I like to use. So it cuts back on the travel costs, more for my money, a little saving for me, which in turn, one step closer to buying my mom a car.
There you go. That's pretty. So is this going to be all new material that you've written over the last year? Is this stuff that we've heard before that you got some videos and stuff out on, or how are you working that? Because the pandemic has been an opportunity for a lot of people to write new stuff, but you just published a 320-page book. When have you had opportunity to write comedy?
And that's the problem. Yeah. So we've got the Dry Bar special and the Amazon special, and I don't want people to have found out about me and then come to the shows and see the same joke that they saw already on TV or whatever. So right. I've been working really hard to generate new jokes, new stories. It's about 50% turned over at this point. So if you were to come to see me now, you'd probably see about half the stuff that you already saw and about half new stuff. I'm working really hard to turn the whole thing over. The problem is, as you said, I spent the whole pandemic writing a book, number one, and then all the jokes I came up with, I've got probably a good hour of new stuff, but I've had nowhere to actually test the new stuff because everything is closed. So I don't want to just show up somewhere and do all untested material and have everybody stare at me like, one of my normal shows.
Sounds like a Sunday morning at my church. So
I have to ask, are you a fan of the Church Complaint Sunday posts?
Yes. I have loved them, and I wanted to get to that.
And the Office Wednesday? Is it the Wednesday?
That'd be Monday.
There's Monday. There's Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday, I believe is what it is. You've got something each one.
And offensive band name Thursday.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yep. Yeah. So if you don't follow Jeremy on Twitter and Facebook, you need to, because he's a one-liner machine when it comes to these posts that he does weekly. And the church complaint posts in particular crack me up because it's like these little nitpicky things, but it's something that as a person in ministry that we get all the time. The one though that really got me was the one I think from 2 weeks ago, where your pastor actually has a measuring tape next to you, and is trying to like determine how tall you are or something. Talk to us a little bit about that. What was that?
So the origin of the Church Complaint Sunday, I've become friends with the preacher, and every once in a while, he's never told me who, but he always will bring up somebody complained about this, that, or the other. So every Sunday, I kind of sit there and watch one thing happen, and I think somebody's going to complain about that. So then I just kind of turned that into my Church Complaint Sunday, and then a couple weeks ago, he called me right up to the front and measured my legit height with the tape measure in front of everybody. And
it's 6'6". Is that what you are again?
6'6". Yeah,
almost the devil's number. No, they are great. The Church Complaint. It seems like you put a lot of hard work into your comedy, like Lee Harden does his guitar playing.
Are we making fun of Lee, or is that a compliment?
No, he's a great guitar player.
He's very good. Yeah.
It's both. It's both. Lee, I love you. I'm just playing.
So
okay,
yeah. So
just playing, you guys.
The church complaint stuff is
Dynamite Droppin'. He's the other half of Dynamite Droppin'.
So the church complaint stuff is great. So
Jeremy's got a lot of background in wrestling, and Lee does in guitar.
So the pastor's measuring you on Sunday morning. So try to just get everything back on track.
We can cut all this. You're not going to. You're going to make me look like a jerk.
No, it's fine. So the pastor's measuring you on Sunday. Like, is he measuring your height? Are you standing? Are you sitting? Is it part of an illustration?
Yeah, he pulls me up on the stage and he says, "I just want to do something here. Jeremy Nunes, could you come right on up?" And so pulls me up, and then pulls out the tape measure. And the first thing he says, "How long have you played basketball?" The very first
everybody,
everybody.
So, measured the height. It was the sermon. It was something about trying to measure yourself up to other people or compare to yourself. And then what was behind that? I fell asleep anyway. So
my dad used to do that every Sunday. He'd play in the band and he'd come sit on the front row on the side, but he could not stay awake to save his life.
Just fall asleep.
And it was just something. Everyone just let him go to sleep.
And they would just wake him up before the invitation. And
so he could go up and play guitar.
Get back up there. We need you to.
It was just a thing. He fell asleep. I inherited that. I don't fall asleep at church, but I turn the TV on.
I might have to start sending Jeremy some of the church complaints, and one of the ones that I'll send him is one that was also mentioned in the book, and that is toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
So we're big on we're a small church, but we're big on creature comforts.
I've got a suggestion.
Right? Because there are certain things that when you go, when you not happening.
Get yourself a bidet.
So, but there are certain things that when you go to a place, if you've got bad toilet paper or something like that, those things you remember. But also, especially because we've got a lot of young families that are starting to come now. If you've got the Charmin, extra strength in there, the moms notice and they're like, "Hey, it was a mess, but thanks for getting the good toilet paper." But it also
was a disaster.
It's crazy, but it also becomes a thing during budget time. Is why are we spending $1,200 on office supplies? It's like, oh, because we spend the extra $200 a year to get the regular toilet paper instead of the sandpaper. This was, if I remember right, this was a Merf complaint. In the book is that Merf wanted better toilet paper. But didn't want it to affect the budget or his hourly wage, and didn't understand why those things couldn't be married together.
Being the political mastermind that you are, how would you sell to the council getting a bidet for the town hall? Oh my gosh! To a small village of hillbillies, to quote.
Well, I'll tell you, you first gotta start planting the seeds. Okay. So what you do, you'd have to wait until someone came from the bathroom who clearly took a number 2. Okay. That's number 1.
Okay.
Then you kind of mention you smell something as if they maybe didn't get cleaned up all the way. That's the first, right?
So now you got that number 2. What's number 2?
you got that person kind of now it's working in their head, and then the next one, like, boy, you have to make up a small town complaint to like get them on your side. This was a classic Jeremy Nunes tactic. I'd be like, yeah, a lot of people have complained to me about the stop sign there on Main and Park.
Yeah. And you go, oh, man, I hate that stop sign.
Yep.
I've been in 3 wrecks over yonder.
So then you got to bring up, I had a couple people now have mentioned to me about, the toilet paper. It's just not doing a trick there or whatever. I don't know what we could even do about it. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. Right? Boom. That's it. Now you've planted the seed twice. And then before long, you have to sneak in a line item. This is very congressional. When you write you got to sneak something in there. Special projects, as in my book, special projects for however much a bidet costs. I have no idea.
$79.99 on Amazon. And before you know it, you're saving the town money, unless the water supply runs out.
Sure. So then you got to point it out. Hey, get the budget vote. It's done, and then next thing you know, you got everybody on your side. You can put it right through. Like you got unless there's a boil order, and then that's no good.
Yeah.
Well,
aside from that, you got a happy, clean behind.
Yeah. we got a couple of things before you get out of here, because we know we want to be respectful of your time. We've had you for almost an hour now.
I don't.
I want to talk a little. I want to talk a little about Dynamite Drop-In, which is the podcast that you do with Lee Harden about professional wrestling. It's gained a lot of steam over the last year since we've talked. Talk to us a little about the podcast. What are some things that you guys are doing, and when can our listeners catch the shows?
Lee got recommended to me to open for me. I was looking for an opener in downstate Illinois, and he lives in the Nashville area. So that's kind of how I met him. And he's a big guitar player, and I believe a fan of the bidet. So just putting it out there.
That's going to end up in the show title for this episode for no reason.
He doesn't know what the heck.
Yeah.
Sorry, it should be have a good bidet. That's what it should be.
Have a good bidet. Very good.
Then he and I got talking after the show. We're both big pro wrestling fans. So that, just like in politics, the seeds had been planted. And then my podcast I had at the time, me and an alderman from the town board used to read these Facebook small town complaints of the people complaining in the area.
Oh, awesome.
Which was a lot of fun and had a lot of traction. It just takes a lot of time to research that stuff, and I just didn't have it anymore. So eventually I kind of chat with Lee. Maybe we should do a podcast about AEW Dynamite. That show is every Wednesday, unless the NBA playoffs get in the way, and then it changes around. But so we usually record Wednesday night right after, or Thursday morning, and release immediately thereafter. So it's comedy meets pro wrestling, and it's a swear-free program, and kind of like you guys, and so we kind of get a little traction. I upset. I
love it already.
We'll post in like the AEW talk forums about this various pro wrestling talk, and we'll plug the podcast in there. And inevitably, something always comes up about this specific wrestler by the name of Nyla Rose, who is a man who has transitioned to a woman, but Nyla Rose wrestles in the women's division and crushes people largely because she was a man and she's larger than everyone and smashes them. Mm-hmm. So anytime there's discussion about Nyla Rose, I always mention, I didn't know AEW allowed men to beat up the women. Learn more on Dynamite Drop.
you just stir up that hornet's nest.
Yep.
Then I get, a bunch of people say, you should quit comedy. You're not funny. And I'm like, hey, I got a best-selling Amazon book. What are you doing living in your mom's basement still?
Like, how often though is that the insult that people go to? Oh, you're not funny. Like, who? you wouldn't have been able to survive in comedy, one, if you weren't funny, but second, if you weren't able to handle a heckle.
Well, Tom Segura just mentioned this, actually. He said there's a lot of people that tell him, you're not funny. He goes, okay.
They're like, who cares?
Yeah.
Because they feel like it's the ultimate insult to a comedian that to say, you're not funny. But I tell you, the people that say that, it's always the people that disagree with sort of like my political and or religious views. It's always those people. It's never somebody who came to a show and then follows up, I saw it, not funny.
Yeah.
Right? It's somebody
Has
who's like,
anyone ever done that? They go to your show. Just so you know, I didn't like any of that.
no, you know what? Soon I'll come to that. But yeah, so eventually that's kind of how that works out. That's just sort of their go-to. And every comedian, any experienced comedian lets it just, roll off. But now as far as the shows, when I used to be an opening act many years ago, people would kind of come up to the guy that's the main act. Like, no, you were so funny. It was amazing. I loved it. It was fantastic. Look at me. You were funny too.
Just nowhere near the enthusiasm.
Thanks for the consolation prize.
Yikes. So, well, to wrap up our interview, we always end each of our interviews with a segment called Controlled Rowdiness, where we're just going to ask you some rapid fire questions. You answer with the first thing that comes to the top of your head. We've got some questions here that are specific for Jeremy Nunes. Now, we know tomorrow is your very first soccer practice where you were coaching your kiddo in soccer. So we want to know what Vince Lombardi book are you looking to get coaching tips from?
It's called The Packers Suck.
All right, I like it. As a Cowboy fan, I endorse that.
There you go. Yeah.
So
did you see they re-signed Karen Rodgers? Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah, and then he immediately got on and told everybody how awful the front office was.
Yeah.
How do you think the U.S. soccer team, the women's soccer team, is going to perform? We're at this point when it comes out, it'll be over, but we're going to make our predictions sure to go correct.
Well, I think their problem is they're too worried about some political stances rather than actually representing the country that sent them in the first place. So even though talent-wise they are the best team in the world, they're at best going to be a third-place team.
All right.
Very astute observation.
Yep. When Elon Musk colonizes Mars, are you going to submit your name to become the mayor of Mars?
As a joke.
I will have an interest in that, and it will only be to spite my dad, who will say you cannot be the mayor of Mars.
I love it. I think that's a great reason.
Very good.
That's a great reason.
What do you think is the funniest Bible verse? I have some suggestions. If nothing
Bible
comes
verse
to
or
mind.
Bible story?
Bible story. Why are you busting my chops over here?
I want this episode to be good. I like Jeremy.
Okay.
Best Bible story. Funniest Bible
And if
story.
not, I have some suggestions.
The funniest one, well, I'll tell you how I use it to be funny.
Okay.
Is it was 1 Corinthians 11:14.
Whoa.
Okay.
It's something to do with
We're going New Testament, folks.
Yes. If something about if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, but if a man has long hair, it's a dishonor. Something to that effect.
I don't like
dishonorable.
Hitting too close to home.
Yeah. So when people are
so
like,
if there's any Bible verse that you don't agree with,
Yes. Yeah.
interesting switcheroo there.
Does not
on
the
your
very nature
typical
of
stance.
Yeah, here it is. Does not the very nature of things teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him? That's the verse.
Jeremy,
Okay.
I agree. I think that's the best Bible verse. Funniest.
So when people ask what Bible verse means the most to you, I will say 1 Corinthians 11:14, and then they'll be like, oh, pull it up, and I go, hair? It's very serious to me. I lost mine. It's serious.
Okay.
I think that's beautifully
good
done.
Point.
So we talked about your coaching endeavors, and we know that athletics is one of the areas where we've seen a lot of activisms. What causes are you going to be encouraging your players to protest for as the season begins, and are you going to introduce these during practice tomorrow night?
The primary cause, I'm telling you 100%, porta potties with bidets.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. We need some bidets in America. This is the next thing that we need.
That's a terrible idea.
No.
That's a terrible idea.
No, it's not. It's the best idea.
But I mean, you think about all these kids' soccer fields. You got to go. You got a porta potty that I mean, looks like it just survived a tornado or something. And nobody wants to be in that thing. But it would be a lot easier if there was a bidet in there. Plus, you could maybe stick your hands in there and wash your hands in it.
It doubles as a sink.
So right after Sandy Yount comes onto the field to sing the national anthem to kick off the soccer season, and all of Jeremy Nunes' team,
big fat lady, yeah,
they're all kneeling down in protest of porta potty bidets. Yeah. I got it. I like it.
I think that's a good one.
Be good. Yeah.
If you had a time machine and you'd go back in time to prevent an atrocity, what would it be?
Oh my. You know what would be interesting? I wanted to say the crucifixion, but it kind of had to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Jesus asked 3 times for it not to happen. God said, no, you're not fixing that.
Yep.
So maybe the Kennedy assassination.
Ooh.
The correct answer to that was The Last Jedi and the Crystal Skull. That was the correct answer. It was the worst thing to ever. No, it's not.
I think being from Dallas, the Kennedy assassination is a fascinating one. Why would you pick the Kennedy assassination?
Because I would have the ability to stop the shooter, which would mean I'm in 2 places at one time.
Ooh. So Nunes believes in the grassy knoll theory.
Yeah. Not to go off on a little rabbit trail, but he was sort of the first president to speak up about, the quote deep state. He was the first one to kind of start to expose it, and then sure enough, he gets assassinated. So if he's not assassinated, I would love to see what exactly happens and what plays out there. That would have been pretty cool.
Isn't there like a Stephen King novel that's about that, like 1963 or JFK or something like that, which explores like what if Kennedy didn't get assassinated?
Does it have some grotesque sex scene in it?
Probably, because Stephen King's he's a freak, and he does gnarly stuff like that.
Kennedy, little known fact, also was the only president to have Addison's disease, which is a very rare disease that my wife has. It's of the adrenal glands. He had a doctor with him and pretty much at all times for that.
Really?
Yep.
Fascinating stuff.
Yep.
Well, Jeremy, thanks for coming on, man. Tell our audience where it is that they can find you on social media, where they can be checking out. You get $1 for every download of your Amazon special. We know that.
Click it.
Yeah,
click it and reload it.
Yeah, go
Refresh.
buy Jeremy's kids some lunch. Yeah, but tell our audience where they can find you.
Yeah, so you got the Dry Bar Comedy Special and the Amazon Prime Special. If you don't want to give Jeff Bezos any money, the same special is also on Christian Cinema.
Sweet.
And then we talked a lot about the book. It's not just Amazon, but Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, all online there, or you can't write cityhall.com. Dynamite Drop-In Podcast, where Lee Harden talks all things pro wrestling with me. We have never brought up a bidet, but we might. Just for Danley, I might sneak it in as a joke on the next episode.
Sweet. It's gonna throw Lee off so bad.
He's gonna pull out his guitar and write a song about how confused he is. I've been throwing a lot of shade at Lee, but I am just playing, buddy.
So on Twitter and on Facebook, are you Jeremy Nunes or Front Porch Comedy?
Yeah, so Twitter is at Jeremy Nunes, and then Front Porch Comedy for Facebook, TikTok. I don't know what
you're
else.
on TikTok. That's something interesting.
Yeah, I started doing. I've kept it separate, but TikTok and Instagram, both Front Porch Comedy. I've started doing political comedy only on those outlets to sort of keep them separate and see which sort of draws more attention. Because if the political comedy starts to gain some steam, I might go that way. But I've kept it off of Facebook thus far for that reason. But anyway, all that stuff. And then Facebook, the Church Complaint Sunday, Small Town Complaint Wednesday, all
always
that good
funny.
stuff.
Yep.
Well, you can't write City Hall spelled WRITE, just to be clear.
Yep.
Just to be clear.
It's an Amazon
Jeremy
bestseller.
Nunes.
Hilarious book. Make sure that
His
you
last
get it.
name is spelled with an S, not a Z, like this liar wrote on the inside.
Shameful. Absolutely shameful. Jeremy, thanks so much for the time, man. We appreciate you coming back on.
All right, fellas. Well, thanks for having me. Hopefully next time it doesn't take a year.
So, Jeremy freaking Nunes, part 2.
Yep.
Also, before we dive too far into the myriad of topics we covered with Jeremy,
Yep.
and I'm afraid to ask this question.
Why?
I want to know why so much bidet talk.
I already told you. We're not cutting this out of the episode. You got to go find it and do a quick cross transition, add it in.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe what'll happen.
I was in the shower. It's a nice, clean feeling.
So we're gonna
Why would
skip
you
this.
not want that?
So Jeremy obviously had a lot to say about the book. We got to talk to him a tremendous amount off air about some of the stuff that he's doing, getting ready for his new tour that's coming up. It's going to be a theater tour. Hopefully he'll be able to make all of those dates.
Look,
and
bidets make for clean comedy. Okay, it literally cleans. There's nothing bad about it. It shouldn't be a gross thing
I'm
to
really
say that we want
glad
to
that
get clean.
he elaborated on some of the characters that were in the book,
Uh-huh.
Especially knowing what the fart noise was that Barry makes throughout.
We're gonna go back
so
and get it.
so it's that he goes or
So he says yippee-ki-yay.
yippee-ki-yay. Like, and if you
is
and I know
so
that I mentioned
weird.
this with Kyle, but if you go back and you listen to some of the early episodes,
He
I
does.
don't recommend that you do that because they're awful.
No, he's done that.
If you think that this is bad, you should have heard us a year ago. And you just nonchalantly take gear off the table. So, but that was one of the things that Kyle did, is that Kyle would make noises into the microphone. He'd be like, "Oh, yeah," and so that
I didn't realize
and
it at
you know
first.
what? I'm sorry.
I
I'm sorry
know.
for all of our listeners that we've made those noises into the mic because they're harsh on the eardrums.
What's worse, that sound or the crunching a chip with Kristen Weber?
I would take the crunching a chip over that. But so that's the kind of stuff that Barry would do, and I didn't know because he
just said it's literally said fart
It
noise.
says fart noise
Yeah.
in the text, and the way he described it was that he said it's like the sound whenever you make that release. So I wasn't sure if it was like that noise or if it was one of those where it was like, you know, because he describes Barry as an old man. If it was the old man that like after they release, that they were just like, ugh. That, you know, when you've been, you know,
you've been holding it in.
after you take a couple of Tums and then it gets everything moving. So I didn't know. So I was glad to get some
dare
clarification
you.
on that.
How dare you?
I think it was pretty funny.
How dare you high road me when I'm talking about getting clean from a bidet, and now you're sitting here talking about farting and releasing.
I'm talking about something that was contextual to the book.
Well, I'm talking about something that was contextual to our conversation.
But just barely. So
It is.
I thought the elaboration there was interesting. It was funny to hear some of that.
It for sure was.
Him talking about Rhonda Brown. We got into something afterwards that now I wish we would have
could
talked
probably
about a
still
little
use
bit
it.
on air.
It's in the episode.
Yeah,
We told him it was over, but it wasn't.
And if you are,
We kept rolling.
if you're an executive producer, if you're an EP that's looking for a project to pitch, I cannot recommend this book.
It's a
to
mixture
you
of
enough.
Woebegone and Parks and
Rec
Recreation.
and a little bit of just good old like Beverly Hillbillies. Just because there's some things about like
You remember
for
that
instance,
John Lithgow show?
Third Rock from the Sun?
No. Something in order.
Law and Order.
No.
Lawrence of Arabia.
No. It'll pop up right here. This
Yeah.
show that I'm talking about.
It won't. But there's some great stuff in there. Some things about
It's
Sandy
about an insane
Yount.
town that women can't drive by law without people walking in front of the car with lights. They
I've
have
never
to wait.
even
They
heard of
say
this.
woman driver. It's great. It's something in order. I'll think again. It just popped up on the screen.
Sure, yeah, Northern Exposure. So,
But it's like that.
but he
is what it
talks
feels
about
like.
and he talks about Sandy Yount, and he talked about it a little bit here on the episode that she had stray dogs. Also, their house was surrounded by scrap metal. And so when this guy pulls up, when Harry Yount pulls up into his yard in his truck that's backfiring from 8 blocks away that he can hear, it's with a truck bed full of scrap metal, because that's how, once he got his $100 lottery ticket, scratch off, he won the $100, he quits his job. That's how they're making it, is by him scrapping. And so in one of the meetings, one of these older ladies who he's appointed to the board, or the village board, says, you know what, because he's making them go through all these old ordinances to try and update them. She says, you know what, I found an ordinance about junkyards. You can't have a junkyard without a permit, so we need to go talk to Harry Yount. Meanwhile, Sandy Yount is sitting right next to her because she's just been appointed on the board. There are these moments of like beautiful, just complete tension that come from people's just like lack of couth or care or whatever it is. And both these ladies end up not saying a word, and they look to Jeremy like, okay, how are you going to fix this? And he's like, ow, take a look at it and let you know by the next meeting what we need to do. You know, and then he's got to pull him aside and play politician. And it's very funny, just the way that he handles all of it, the stuff that happens in a small town. I can't recommend the book highly enough. And thank you, because it was a gift from you. Even though the signature is an obvious forgery, it was awesome. It's been a ton of fun reading it. Make sure that you check out.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Make sure that you check out Jeremy on Twitter and Facebook at Jeremy Nunes, Nunes. Jeremy spelled the traditional way, but Nunes for Nunes. And check out Front Porch Comedy. If you download his special on Amazon, he does make a little bit of money off of that, so make sure that you go check him out. Check out his Amazon special. He's got a dry bar special. He's got the book, Dynamite Drop In. The guy's got all kinds of stuff that you can continue to not just support him, but be more familiar with his work. Listen to the next episode of, well, actually, it'll probably be a couple of episodes back, of Dynamite Drop In. See if they made the bidet reference.
From when this comes out, it'll be the previous one or something.
Yeah. So,
but either way, go check it out. They're pretty funny, and you know, if you're a fan of wrestling, it's a win-win.
Yeah, yep. And Nyla Rose. Make sure that you go on and leave them a comment about Nyla Rose.
Yeah, say you ain't funny.
Yeah.
All right, I got nothing. Bye.
Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll see you all next week.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say thank you.
Hey guys, it's Jeremy Nunes, best-selling author on Amazon, comedian extraordinaire. You should never ever listen or watch the Reverend and the Reprobate podcast because, first of all, Lucas is clearly on some sort of steroids, and Danley has some sort of unhealthy, uncomfortable fascination with bidets. All right, we're going to start again. Take two. They call me One Take Nunes. Here's take two. All right. You guys are going to use that. I already know. But
you know us pretty well, so by now. Lucas does it to me all the time too. I'll be like, "Oh, let's cut this." Nope, it goes right into the episode.
All right, 3, 2, 1.